I'm very excited to have the privilege of speaking with GALs, or child advocates, depending on what county you're in, about the potential for collaboration between parent attorneys and GALs. In terms of how we can best work together, or some ways that we can work together, and some reasons to work together really, is number one, as child advocates, you have a duty to do your own independent investigation. In order to do a really adequate investigation and to find out all the information about your client and their history and their mental health history and their school history and their family history, all of that information is most likely going to be information that the parent can best provide. And as parent advocates, you know, if we have good lines of communication, in most cases there's no reason why we cannot help you get that information. In order to facilitate reunification, it's going to be incredibly important that both children and parents receive appropriate services. And that's, you know, one area where we really have the same agenda. We want the children and the parents to receive quality assessments, to really identify what the problems are, and to really receive high quality services that are actually going to alleviate those problems, fix those problems, so that this family can move forward and reunify if possible, right? We want to give them a fighting chance to reunify. Another reason that parent advocates and child advocates should collaborate is collaboration will lead to faster permanency outcomes. Why? Because we will be able to resolve issues of controversy faster, and we will only be truly litigating real issues. There's so many, the devil really is in the details in a lot of these cases, right? You'll find that if you're new GALs, or you know, if you're veteran GALs, and then you know already that a lot of times things break down in between court hearings because you know, the visitation instructions weren't detailed enough, or it wasn't clear who was going to make the referral by what date, and so the assessment didn't actually happen, and you know, so there are a lot of delays in those types of logistics. And to the extent that parent advocates and child advocates can really talk through and come to agreements about what it is we want to see happen, we can join together then to ask for that, to make sure that those types of things are on the court order. Those types of things that, you know, a lot of them are going to be non-controversial. You know, we may disagree over visitation, but you know, there's a high likelihood that we'll be able to come to some type of negotiated agreement. Also, as a GAL, one of the first things that you will likely have to deal with is the trauma that your child client is facing. The trauma of having been in an abusive or neglectful situation, and potentially the trauma of having been removed. You know, as we all know, removing a child from a home is itself traumatic, and you know, and oftentimes the removal may be to a stranger. You know, in foster care, it might be removing a child in addition from their parents' custody, removing them from their siblings, from their school, from their neighborhood, from their friends, from their church. This really you know, presents an opportunity. There are many things that the parent can do to help minimize the trauma to that child. For example, they can you know, let the child advocate and the foster parent know what are the favorite things the child likes, what are the toys the child likes, how the child likes to be calmed down, what are the types of activities the child enjoys. You know, can develop a you know, some relationship that is helpful, especially in the initial stages, to make sure that that the removal is not as dramatic and traumatic to that child, and then also ongoing. As you can imagine, parents are going to worry about their children who are in placement. As, you know, even if it's a kinship placement, right? The child is not in their custody. They're going to worry about, you know, what is that child thinking, doing? Are they happy? Are they crying? Are they safe? Are their, you know, medical and mental health needs being met? You know, and that's even more amplified if the child is in foster care with a stranger, and if the parent, you know, doesn't know that foster parent, and you know, in some cases, you know, may have not met that foster parent directly or met them, just for a few minutes here and there at visits. So it's very scary for parents to think about and to worry about what's happening with their children. To the extent that jails advocate strongly for their child clients while their clients are in care, it really alleviates the stress for parents and enables them to focus on their goals. Both parent advocates and child advocates have the goal of trying to place children when possible with family members. And here, parents are really in a position to identify family members who the child knows or who the child may get along with, family members who are likely to be able to work within the parameters of the child welfare system. And sometimes, at the initial stage of removal, parents are really not in the mental frame to identify other caretakers. They're just simply stunned. And it takes them a little while to be able to focus on, okay, if my child can't be with me, who is the right person for my child? Who is the right person to be taking care of my child? Who in my family? So it may not come immediately upon removal, but it may come a little later where parents are able to identify people who would be good family caretakers. One thing I want to stress is that for the most part, even parents who have abused or neglected their children love their children deeply, want their children to thrive, want to get better, want to reunite with their children, want their children to be in safe placements, and have a lot of information to share, and also add value at every step of the process. So one of the most important things you can do as a GAL is to respect the parent, to allow them in the process, to hear what they have to say with an open mind, and to allow their value, to allow their input to matter. In most of these cases, the children will reunite with that parent. And it doesn't help the reunification if during the process we have so undermined that parent, their authority, their self-esteem, that it's difficult to go back to assuming the parental role. We want to be careful that we don't, through our own actions, somehow destroy something of value.